Should I be drunk? Because I'm not yet.
Hello and welcome to Let's Rewatch, the podcast where we get together as a group and watch a movie that at least one of us loved as a child and at least one of us has never seen, and we get to see if it still holds up to a modern day audience. My name's Nick.
My name's Ash.
I'm Bret.
And I'm Sam.
Am I in this?
And that's Bryce.
That's Bryce. And we are the Laugh Stash TV crew. This is our first audio podcast. So the basic idea of this show is you have probably hundreds of movies that you saw as a child that you absolutely love. But the question still stands, are those movies actually any good? If you watch them right now, are those movies still any good? So we're going to get together probably every 2 weeks or so, and we're going to watch a movie from one of our childhoods. Now, it's not going to be a situation where we've all seen this movie. And in fact, it's better if not everybody in the group has seen the movie.
Yeah, because it's also about, does it live up to modern day expectations, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is one of us will bring a movie to the group that we loved as a child. We're going to watch it as a group, and we're going to see if it's any good. And we're going to see if the people who haven't seen it love it or hate it.
We use the word child loosely. It could be just from our past.
Could be
Right.
man-child.
Because all
Child
of you
servant.
are children in my eyes.
All of you. To Nick, we are children still.
Okay, so let's kind of dive into what we're doing this week. Today, we're going to be watching Wet Hot American Summer. And what's exciting about watching Wet Hot American Summer is that Wet Hot American Summer is coming back as a limited series on Netflix. So I'm bringing Wet Hot American Summer to the group. This is a movie that I absolutely loved, and I'm curious to see how everybody feels about it. So let me give you a little introduction about what we are to expect in this movie. And then we'll just kind of go around and get everybody's expectations on what we're dealing with here. So to really get into Wet Hot American Summer, you have to remember the state, which I would bet that most of you do not remember because you're far too young. Have any of you seen the sketch comedy show The State?
No.
I thought you were referring to like the literal state where maybe this took place.
No, it was a show. So in the mid-90s, MTV realized that nobody was actually watching music videos.
Surprise!
So they started working on alternative programming, and they decided that they wanted one of their flagship shows to be a sketch comedy show. So they went into talks with two New York-based sketch comedy teams, The State and Broken Lizard.
Oh.
Ultimately,
I recognize one of those.
because ultimately they decided to go with The State, and they gave The State a show that ran from 1995 to 1996, and then Broken Lizard went off to make movies instead. They made
They said, fuck you guys, we're going home.
and
movies.
They made awesome stuff. I mean, they kind of both went in a different direction and made really great stuff.
We know who the clear winner is because one of them I recognize. I'm just kidding.
I think you recognize a lot of The State.
Okay.
Which we'll talk about in a moment. Yeah. Broken Lizard, they make this independent film called Puddle Cruiser, then Super Troopers. The rest is history. But The State had an extremely successful show on Netflix.
I was just going to say, like Jon Snow, I know nothing about anything. I'm just letting you, the viewer, know that I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's okay. That's why we do the setup.
Yeah, so that Nick can educate me.
Yeah.
It's an elaborate ruse.
Well, I think the really interesting thing here is that I think you know a lot of the members of The State. You just don't know where they got their start.
Well, I know that you live in this state. And I live in this state.
So the show ran on MTV for a couple years. I think it ended in 1995. So that ended in 95, and they did a little bit in between, a lot of stage stuff. But in 2001, they kind of came back and made this movie, Wet Hot American Summer. And it's sort of The State movie, although it's only got about half of the cast of The State. Now, I don't want to talk about the other actors in this movie because there are a lot of awesome people in this movie that I think it's just fun that you discover as we go through.
Oh, no, spoilers.
But some of the people that you might know from The State, so I'm sure you know Ken Marino. Ken Marino is the lead on Marry Me And
Oh, yeah.
he was the lead on Burning Love, which I showed to you guys. Did Brett and Sam, did you see Burning Love?
No, I've not seen your herpes.
Listeners, I highly recommend Burning Love, which it came out as a...
Hunka burning low.
See, you're making fun of it, but you loved it.
It's good. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's like what's that horrible show?
The Bachelor.
The Bachelor.
Yeah.
They make fun of The Bachelor, but they are so good at making the fun of The Bachelor that you get so sucked in that you're like, this could be a real thing. Oh my God. It kind of...
I got caught up on rooting for specific people to win, even though it was so fake
like,
and so funny.
This is bullshit.
Yeah, and I still think Janet Varney should have won. Also in Burning Love, another member of the state, Michael Ian Black. He was the host of the fake show.
I've seen him.
He was in Hell Baby. He's now in another period on Comedy Central. And a guy that I know, Brett and Sam, you know well, Joe Latrulio, who is in Brooklyn Nine-Nine as Boyle. So you're going to see all these guys in this movie, and they're, big founding members of the state.
So this is basically where they got their start.
Yeah,
right?
they got their start, doing little shows in New York, then the MTV show, and then this movie kind of really exploded them.
Okay.
So with this little preview and what you already know of the movie, I'm curious to see how you guys feel. Do you think you'll like this? Do you feel like you have enough information? What do you think you're going to feel about this movie? Brett, what do you think?
Well, I remember this came out with the simultaneous release, Dry, Cool, Russian Winter. And, I gotta say...
No.
And that one was just so ice cool that it was unforgivable.
I really enjoy Russian humor. And,
in Soviet Russia, these jokes laugh at you, Brett.
I know nothing about this movie. It sounds
Clearly.
like it's going to be, American Pie 7 or something from the title. So I don't know.
Wet hot American Pie in your face summer.
But before American Pie.
But it sounds like a title from after. So I don't really know what to expect.
Okay. Sam, expectations?
I'm expecting it to be pretty awesome because you were actually not the first one to recommend this movie to me. And I was supposed to have watched it a year and a half ago. And I failed to do so. So hooray, I did, because otherwise we couldn't have watched it for the podcast. So...
Now's your time.
And also, Sam can't just take your recommendation. There has to be someone else. So
Fair enough.
No, I mean, 2 recommendations of a movie that's like over 15 years old. It's got to be a pretty good movie. That's the way I look at it. And I'm kind of expecting like awesome cheese, like Troop Beverly Hills. I don't know why. In my head, I feel like they're going to have a similar feel for no logical reason.
Ash, your thoughts, your anticipation?
The only thing I know is that Paul Rudd is in this movie. And that's all I know. I know. Well, and I've seen the trailer for the new series.
Okay.
And it looks amazing. It looks hilarious. But that's all I know.
Bryce?
Perfect. Succinct. Well put, Bryce. Well said.
Did you guys see that like, was it BuzzFeed or something? Paul Rudd never ages.
Oh my
God. Can you guess how old he is in these photos? It was impossible.
I did see an article that said, it was one of those link bait articles, and it said, "This will shock you. Paul Rudd will not do a movie unless you pay him money."
Oh yeah, that really shocks me. Shocker.
That was pretty good. Okay, so hopefully you have either recently watched Wet Hot American Summer. It's available on Netflix. Or you'll pause this podcast now and watch Wet Hot American Summer with us. We're going to watch it, and then we're going to pick up, and we're going to talk about how we feel about it after the break.
Woo!
Into the fire, kicking it higher and higher.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Wet Hot
Gold.
American Summer, my friends. That movie brought me higher and higher.
Higher and higher.
All right, I want to know what you guys think.
I was less impressed by the people I was told were in this movie, and more impressed by John Benjamin playing a can.
That was amazing.
John Benjamin as mixed vegetables.
John Benjamin has a can.
Yeah.
So that was something that I knew that you would love, and an awesome little moment that I didn't want to mention.
Oh, yeah. Did I
yeah,
hit
and
record?
the PTSD camp cook was amazing.
Amazing.
I mean, he humped a fridge and I was there with him.
Because he believed in himself and he was true to his own feelings.
I don't know if anybody else besides me and Bryce has seen it, but that actor is in a show, a very short-lived show called Surviving Jack, which is by the writer who did Shit My Dad Says.
Yeah, it's the second TV version of Shit My Dad Says.
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate that show got canceled because he was so funny in it. And as soon as I figured out that was him, I was just lost my shit. I could not.
Pretty awesome.
He was so hysterical.
Let's talk about the fact that you did not mention that Bradley Cooper was in this movie.
Yeah.
See, I wanted you to discuss. There were some amazing people in that movie.
Like, what is this movie that has all these amazing people in it?
Like,
Yeah,
everybody, even the like ex-husband dude was Lutz from 30 Rock. Like,
yeah, Judah Friedlander.
yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of people.
So amazing little moment there when Bradley Cooper and Amy Poehler popped up on screen. Ash is trying to say, oh, those two remind me of this Saturday Night Live bit with Will Ferrell and I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
And then the next scene it cuts to
next cut.
is
I'm
Molly
like, Molly
Shannon.
Shannon. Molly Shannon. But it's interesting. I wonder what came first because the Will Ferrell, Molly Shannon act in Saturday Night Live where they totally are playing like the super peppy, preppy, high school
like
couple, Glee Club.
sorta, yeah.
That was totally Amy Poehler,
And Bradley Cooper.
And Bradley Cooper.
I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah.
Best sex scene award goes to Bradley Cooper and
Michael.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while. Like, it's weird seeing just... It's just funny because they're gay, apparently, and
It was funny
That was
because
hilarious in 2000.
Michael Ian Black lifted Bradley Cooper off the floor with his dick.
Also, they were joking that he was uncomfortable with the idea of sex, and he was the only one actually getting any,
Yeah,
which was amazing.
yeah, I think the joke was the other two were being douchebags.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a wonderful long gag there where they show up with the chaise lounge.
yeah.
Yep.
That was commitment right there. Crate and barrel.
Yep.
It's funny to think of this movie in the context of this is about the time when Frasier was really big.
Is it really?
Yeah. So
Oh, man.
David Hyde Pierce in that movie was like, oh my God, Frasier's brother is in this stupid little indie comedy.
Yeah.
So apparently that was a big deal at a time.
Hysterical.
I have to.
I love how they're having like a baby even though we never saw them have sex.
Or
It was
a
the
day.
same day.
The same day, I know. Amazing.
Yep.
So, it's funny.
You just looked at me and I conceived. Sorry.
So as I'm watching it, I'm feeling it was kind of uneven. Like there's some
Yeah.
really great stuff, but then there's some stuff that's just kind of falls flat.
I think it suffered from the hardest thing to get over in sketch comedy or comedy in general is like stick the ending. And they had like the first half of the movie was like all these great setups, great characters, great setups. This is funny. I love this. And then like towards the middle, it was like all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, we've got to like come up with a climactic ending here. We got to make some shit up all of a sudden that like doesn't really align with what we were doing. And then sort of like you're saying too, I think you could tell that, different writers maybe wrote different pieces,
Right.
definitely. But I think also it suffered a little bit from the problem that I think a lot of like SNL specifically struggles from, where it's like, how do you stick that end?
Yeah. Yeah, and like you say, different writers. I feel like, Michael Showalter walked in and said, I really want to do my Catskill comedian thing. And they let him do it, but it's like, it was kind of falling flat there, Showalter.
And I totally thought, until he walked in the door, I thought it was like supposed to be his camp, like, personality pretending to be that character. Oh,
you thought it was Coop in disguise as the Catskill comedian.
I totally thought that. And then,
see, that would have been pretty good.
That would have been funny. So I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then when he walks in the door, I was like, oh. And they like deliberately do that shot of him on stage just so you're like, oh, just to be clear, these are two different people, even though you can clearly tell that's the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the non sequitur humor was just like part of his charm and was super amazing, of just like random shit happening all over the place.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it did seem like that was kind of the humor, just random.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the comedy that you would see in like, more recent films like Superbad or like Role Models, but like if that was a sketch comedy base instead of like trying to tie the narrative together.
Okay, so interesting you should mention Role Models, because David Wain also directed Role Models.
Oh, okay.
And that brand of comedy, I think, is also well represented in the movie that I mentioned before that you hated that I loved, They Came Together, which was directed by David Wain, starring Paul Rudd, Amy Poehler, which I thought was brilliant.
I loved that movie. It was amazing.
You can definitely see the brand of comedy there. I was more on board with this one than that other one, just because in this one it was like, it just made all of the characters made sense, that they would be like crazy and zany and not take themselves seriously. And I felt like in the environment, it was like, I didn't have any trouble buying that from anybody. They're all like 16 or younger, or whatever, and it's this like silly camp environment, and they're clearly making fun of camp movies and everything. And I don't know, it like worked better for me in this movie. So
I think, for those of you who've seen They Came Together, which of course I love, but I think the best example of where that one went a little too far was the restaurant scene where the waiter had a pole up his ass.
Oh,
and then he's walking around the restaurant literally with a pole up his ass.
Yeah.
And that's where I think David Wain gets a little bit off the chain. And
I felt like this one had its moments like that too. Like when it's like, oh, these kids are going to go over hey, we never found out what happened to them.
Oh, over the falls?
No, yeah.
No, he jumps in the river.
Oh, that's right.
And Joe Latrulio is like, oh, he did it.
That's right.
Yeah. But the kid who drowned in the beginning, we don't know.
Yeah.
He's just gone.
But the scene where they're like, oh, he's calling inside the camp and they're like screaming, I was like, too far.
That was a little too far.
You went too far there.
But where that type of comedy is running on all cylinders is Molly Shannon and the kid who's counseling her through the divorce.
So good.
Yeah.
Molly Shannon was my favorite part of this movie.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
So good. Oh my God.
As good as Molly Shannon was, that kid was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So good.
I want you to look at me. Look at me. Say okay. So I think a lot of the fun of this movie is just these so many actors who at the time weren't necessarily huge but are huge now.
Yeah.
You've got your Bradley Cooper, which is amazing to see him there. Paul Rudd was fantastic. The scene where she makes him clean up the plate he threw on the floor is a minor masterpiece.
Oh, little fun fact that I noticed about that scene while we were watching it is that you can clearly see her tape mark on the floor, like in plain view. It's so hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. But I absolutely love Paul Rudd in this movie, but he's such, I love him as an asshole, but I also can't take him seriously as an asshole. But that doesn't mean that it takes away from them. Like, I feel like that almost adds to his humor. It's like you look at his face and you're like, oh, you're a nice guy. You know, you're a nice guy. You know?
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like you look at Paul Rudd and he's just like mugging this face. It's like, yeah, I'm an asshole. Like,
and you're like, no, you're not.
Come on, Paul. Come on.
I think this is something that Dan Harmon said in the Harmontown podcast recently, and he said it of Chris Pratt, but I think it's absolutely true of Paul Rudd too. It's all women want to sleep with him, and all men are okay with that. You know, that's the guy he is.
Except for that one guy in the movie, Michael.
Oh, Michael Ian Black.
Who was like, just let her go.
That was like,
Michael Showalter. Yeah.
That was like that scene at the end, though. She's like, I want to have sex, specifically not with you.
Okay, yeah.
Like, and he's like, all right, I get it.
That was such a bummer ending, though.
But it was funny. I like that. Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, they got us all built up for the baseball game, you know, and they're going to have their big win in the end. And like, you know, that's just too trite. We're not feeling it. Yeah. And he goes to the other team on the bus and like, they're totally cool with it, you guys. It's too trite.
That was such a good. And also, I love any time that anyone in the camp, like there's a group of people and anytime they're like, all right, let's go. Everyone just scatters in different directions. It's comedic genius for sure. Can we talk about the nerds? Because they were also one of my favorite parts about this movie.
You liked the Cure girl and the Mallrats girl as listed in the credits?
I love the scene where he tells them that he's not really a teacher. And
he's not a professor. He's
an associate
professor.
And they all just start break down crying and like... It's funny, but it's also like, as a fellow nerd in high school, I'm like, oh, like I feel for you.
Okay, Ash.
I totally understand.
Let's be real here. You were like the most popular girl in your high school. It doesn't really count.
Let's be real here. Our high school consisted of like 80 people in our class. Hey, I was in drumline.
Okay, well, you found your niche.
Is drumline a niche? Is that what I can call it?
They made a movie out of it.
They did. They made it look so cool.
So Paul Rudd, David Hyde Pierce, you got John Benjamin as
John
mixed
Benjamin.
Vegetables.
I love that man.
And apparently, I don't watch Big Bang Theory at all.
Oh yeah, do you guys watch Big Bang Theory? Because Stuart was amazing. Did you recognize Stuart?
Oh, the comic guy.
The comic book store guy?
Yeah.
Who looks like he hasn't aged a fucking day. He looks exactly the same. And also playing pretty much the same character minus the superpowers.
Yeah, what was that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, did he conjure the wind or was that Skylab falling?
I don't know. And there's that scene, that really quick like cut of him in the forest with that crazy like hat on that looks like he belongs in like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or something. And he's like clearly like detecting the speed of the wind or whatever. What was that? What was his helmet?
You're not looking for logic.
I
don't look for logic.
I shouldn't be.
There is no logic in that movie. What about the trip into town drug trip?
Oh my god!
Oh, so good. Are you going into town?
Yeah. I still really wish that they had just dragged somebody off of the truck when they got back to camp that had like OD'd, you know, while they were still in town.
I think my new thing is going to be, are you going into town? And also...
and people are going to look at you like, what?
I think I'm going to try to pull that, now is not the time or place for this conversation. Meet me in 10 seconds at the picnic table.
That was amazing. It was literally 10 seconds. I counted.
I did
too. Really did. Did you?
Yeah.
Can we also talk about the fact that I don't know how many of you actually went to a summer camp, but I went to a summer camp and holy crap, do they all do the same thing? Because my summer camp was exactly the same. But on top of that, it was a religious summer camp.
No.
So at the end of the summer camp, every single year we had to put on a play, and it was a biblical play, and it was a musical. So if you can imagine the Godspell thing, but like times, a half an hour.
Some of the things in your life make so much more sense now.
Do they really? Suddenly, drumline falls into place. But anyway, so I was having like horrible summer camp flashbacks, minus all the sex and making out and drugs.
Yeah.
I wish summer camp was that exciting.
I kind of went to summer camp. It was not sleepaway. It was just like every day.
Sleepaway?
Yeah, that's what sleepaway camp, where you stay there for several weeks.
I've never heard anyone call it sleepaway.
You just heard it in the movie we just
Really?
watched. Yeah.
I wasn't listening.
Apparently.
What movie did we watch?
But I went to a camp where it was just day camp, so your parents drop you off in the day and pick you up in the evening. It's just basically school.
So it was daycare?
Yeah, pretty much. But we got to canoe. We got to paddle canoes. But yeah, no sex, no drugs. Guess I missed out.
Suddenly everything about your life makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I got the abbreviated camp with no sex and no drugs.
I remember my summer camp, and that was just... The only thing I remember from that was they bought blocks of ice, and they had a contest to have all the kids melt the blocks of ice with their bodies, and it was not great.
With their bodies? Excuse me?
They were like 3 foot tall blocks of ice, and they're like, all right, you kids, like for the next 3 hours, see who can melt the most ice with your bodies.
Really wet, hot American summer. For real. Yeah. That's what you experienced.
It was a shitty summer camp.
Oh, so disturbing.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So, yeah. I think Elizabeth Banks was great, although she didn't really have much to do in the movie. And she was
Besides be hot.
And she was not Parker Posey. And Janine Garofalo as Janine Garofalo.
Yeah, Janine Garofalo could be like not in any of the movies she's in, and I'd be okay with that.
I mean, she's good, but she's just Janine Garofalo.
I really liked her with the guy from Frasier. I thought they were cute.
Yeah, it was adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
They seemed like the only sane people in the movie.
I said no. Okay, so I think the exciting thing here is so the show on Netflix, they've picked up sort of a sequel to Wet Hot American Summer as a limited series, like 6 or 8 episodes on Netflix, starting July 31st. However, the show on Netflix is not a sequel; it's a prequel.
A prequel?
Yes.
So how are they going to make them younger? God, the
Paul
makeup
Rudd
effects.
already looks younger.
That's true. Paul Rudd doesn't age.
I think that in a David Wain world, it works. And these people are 10 years older. They're now in their 40s, and they're playing, 16 years old.
Right.
I think it's going to be brilliant. So this movie was The Last Day of Summer. The new Netflix show is Wet Hot American Summer, First Day of Camp. So it's the first day of camp in 1981. So it brings us to the big question, and I think we need to compound it. First, is the movie any good from a modern perspective? And does it make you want to watch the Netflix series? Sam, what do you think?
Absolutely ×2. I loved it, and I would definitely watch the series. I thought it was really funny.
So you were completely into it?
Totally.
Excellent.
Sam, are you falling asleep?
No.
Sam's always falling asleep.
This is what happens when you put alcohol in her.
Yep. She's like one of those dolls that little kids have when you lean them back and their eyes close.
Shut up.
All right, Bret, are you in or you out?
I feel like I would watch the first episode of this Netflix thing. It was like a 7 out of 10 for me. It was enjoyable. It wasn't phenomenal because of like the weird story structure. I'm not into that whole sketch comedy as a movie, but it was hilarious when it was funny, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
What do you think, Ash?
I really liked it too. I really liked it. There were a couple moments where it kind of went off the rails a little too far for me, but I really liked the concept. I liked the environment. I love sketch comedy, and I think there's like some sketch comedy just at its best in this movie. Some of it that goes too far. But I agree with Bret. It wasn't like a full 10, like full 100% for me. But I would definitely I would give the show a try for sure, especially because there's just so many great actors.
Yeah,
really great actors.
And as rough around the edges as some of them are in this movie, they've all sharpened so much in the past 15 years.
So what do you think, Nick?
So this time around I felt the movie was a little uneven. Definitely some joyous parts, but some stuff that was like, ooh. But then I always have that feeling when I've built it up and I'm presenting the movie to other people. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh no. But
you feel like responsible.
Yeah. My mind keeps coming back to Arrested Development, and I did not get into the new Netflix series. There was some magic in the first 2 seasons of Arrested Development that did not come through in the Netflix series. It felt like it was shoehorned together, like they couldn't get all the actors in the room at the same time, so half of it was this weird green screen situation stitched together, and the story never really congealed for me. So I'm a little bit worried about the Netflix series, but I'm hoping, I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm definitely in. And I think that all the talent that's there, if these people, come into it and bring their A game, there's some really great people, some really fantastic comedians who are even better now than they were 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So
it would be interesting to see their progression of storytelling. Yeah. But I think you really hit on a good point. Like, I felt like when I was watching the movie, I felt like the first half was really solid. And that it was the second half where it started to feel uneven and kind of falling apart for me.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way too?
It didn't feel like an even first half, second half. It just felt like every now and then there was something that, I felt there was more stuff in the first half that didn't work for me. But,
I'm happy the movie didn't stick with like
Ken Marino trying to get back to camp.
Yeah. I'm glad they abandoned that pretty quick.
Yeah. But how glorious is Joe Latrulio on the motorcycle cutting to the stunt double, who is just the worst stunt double. Probably a good stunt double, but he did not match the actor. Clearly like, intentionally, but it's hilarious.
Wearing a wig.
Yeah.
So good.
That was great.
What about during the capture the flag sequence where they had a Kenyan runner like running across the field?
Oh, yeah. That was so good. That was pretty
amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
They had some shining moments in there. So much also not just comedy in the writing, but also comedy in the audio design too. Like, we were laughing at the breaking pot sound that just happens over and over again. The same sound.
Yeah. It was a great payoff when he throws the can of vegetables, and it's that same broken pot sound.
So good.
Or like the 20 Wilhelm screams.
Yeah, Bryce was counting them all. So, Bryce, what did you think?
It was good.
Okay, so that's Wet, Hot American Summer. And if you want to see more, of course, there is the Netflix show. Thanks for tuning in. So we're going to be doing this probably every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And, if you want to give us your ideas, the great thing is there is no shortage of movies that we loved as a child. So there are lots and lots of movies that we could be doing. And, of course, we want to hear from you as the listener. Are there movies that you want us to cover in this podcast?
So yeah, if you have movie suggestions, you can tweet them on Twitter to us at Let's Rewatch. You can also email them to us at letsrewatch@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get tons of suggestions, and there's going to be a huge backlog. So, be patient with us. But if you got some great ideas, throw them in there. Also, follow us at the Laugh Stash Twitter, which is
at Laugh Stash TV. And just so you guys know that our podcast is part of the Laugh Stash TV network. And we are a nerd-centric YouTube channel, and we post all sorts of fun comedy videos. We do video game parodies. We have a cooking show, a drink review show with my co-host here, Bret Eagleston, and myself, and all sorts of other fun stuff. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you want to have more fun, nerdy pictures every day, you can follow us on Twitter as well, at LaughStashTV.
And you just, you just throw Let's Drink in there. But Let's Drink it's a great show. Like the concept is fantastic. Like, yes, you're reviewing drinks as if you're like a food reviewer or something, but you're getting really messed up the whole time.
Yeah,
like, you're drinking a lot of booze.
Yeah, the root of it is Bret and I just get hammered on screen.
And the whole thing just falls apart.
Yeah, and occasionally we have guests. In fact, there's one with Sam, also on the show, the wonderful Sam.
Yeah, when that one gets online, I feel like that's going to be the tipping point, because there's no way that people aren't going to love that.
Yeah, I'm pretty fabulous.
To date, Sam is the most drunk guest we've had.
I'd like to take that as an accomplishment of my entire life. It was like a lifetime achievement award.
We'll make an award just for you, for Sam.
Yeah.
But if you love drinks, and mostly if you love comedy, do check us out, because it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, we make a lot of jokes.
We try anyway.
So thanks for joining us for Wet Hot American Summer on the Let's Rewatch podcast.
All right, next time,
Rick a review.
We're going to watch Dragon Ball Evolution.
No.
It's over 9,000!